Hello YouTube fans. I need to start remembering to tune before I push record. I'm going to do a couple of advanced lessons now. I've been doing some basic stuff. Right now I'm going to work on some advanced stuff I've been working on. One of the things in Bluegrass that you can use to your advantage is octaves. And this goes for any playing, but you can use it in Bluegrass too. Typically, when you first started playing Bluegrass, I thought, well, you can't really play up the neck because the the closed strings is not as loud. They're not as loud as the closed positions. When you pick up here, is not as loud as the open string. Notice that they are kind of quieter, but when I started watching people like Tony Rice and Brian Sutton, I started looking at them, and they are using this up here and making it sound very good because they're using it, mixing the open strings with some of the closed strings. You know, they're doing different things like that, and hopefully that will help you get out of that rut of having to be in this position. A lot of people are stuck here because they think, well, we can't come up here because it's not loud enough, or a lot of people just don't know what to do up here. But what I'm going to do is kind of give you an example here of what you can do based on a G scale, and we're going to use 3 notes per string. One thing we're going to do is the G scale kind of goes like this, 3 notes per string. And that's octaves. In other words, it's whatever you do up here on these 2 sets of strings, you go to the octave of that, and you do the same thing. Okay? Like if we were in G, the octave of that is on the 5th fret D string. So whatever I did here on G, I'm going to do it on the same spot where it begins. It's going to have the same sound, and you don't have to memorize anything new because it's the same shape. So the whole idea here is I'm not going to use the 2 sets of strings on the top, but we're going to use that same shape. The whole shape we're doing it kind of looks like this. Okay, you've got a half step, which is the distance from one fret to the next fret, and a whole step, which is right here, the distance from one fret 2 frets up. So half step is 1 fret, whole step is 2 frets. Okay, half step, whole step. But it's going to look like this. The shape is going to look like this. We got a half step and a whole step. We're going to start on the D string, 4th fret, 4th, 5th, 7th. Now, I can't play it with my finger sticking down here. This is just for an example of what the shape looks like. So it's going to have to be sticking up. But we're going to do that same shape on the G string as well, on the same spot, 4th, 5th, 7th. Okay? Now, if we find that octave for the first note, it's going to be on the B string on the 7th fret. And we're going to do the same shape as we did there. We're going to start on the 7th fret on the B string. Same sounds. Okay. Anyway. And that's all alternate picking, starting with a downstroke, ending with an upstroke. When you're having 3 notes per string, one of the guys I really recommend you looking at his stuff is Paul Gilbert. Now he is a shredder. I mean, he is just maddeningly amazing on guitar. But he is really good at teaching and conveying how to alternate pick. And one of the things he says to do is when you're doing this shape, when you switch to the next string, the G string, it's always an upstroke. Okay? So it's up, down, up for the next strings. So you just practice the. And then you can go. You want that down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay. Same thing up here. And the reason we're using this is because, like, if I was to play a little thing in bluegrass, here's one thing I've been messing around with. Here's what it would sound like. Okay, now that is the transition note. When we land on that pinky on the 7th fret of the G string, we can slide it up to the 9th fret, and then all of a sudden we are in this position. Instead of having to jump from here to here, we can slide and put ourselves in position. Slide to the 9th fret. Now, the tricky thing is, when we slide, the way I do it, is when I start on this little section, I start, instead of with a downstroke, I start with an upstroke. So this way we start with a downstroke, this is where we're starting with an upstroke. And that just gets me in line to hit that last note with a downstroke. It's just subconscious, I don't even know I'm doing it, didn't even know I was doing it until I just now pointed it out. So that's, and then we end up in this position, which is, we're using the, it's a whole nother lesson, but we're using the D shape for G. But the G shape I'm using is not this, it's the Tony Rice kind of D shape, the alternate he does. Because that adds an extra close position, a close note, that we can have one more note to work with up here. If we didn't, we'd have it open, and if we're in G, it's there, but we want to be able to land on this note so we can come back. We got that note there so we can land on it and slide back. But that's where octaves come in, and I just did one that I didn't notice until now. Instead of using all 6 notes, we can use just 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're skipping a note to make it sound like we're going higher than what we really are. Okay, you can do different kinds of combinations from there. Same thing when you're descending. Okay, so when we descend, we're going to use the same thing. The pinky is going to descend on the G string from the 9th to the 7th fret. Picking's kind of, weird on that. You just got to do the best you can with it. But for now, the lesson on octaves is just to help you get from one position to the next position. And know where you're at. When you're down here, you can utilize that open G string to get yourself back to the G. And start messing around with some of the licks we talked about earlier. Start messing around with some of those things. But that lesson is the octaves there, and I can already think of different things that you can do with that, but right now my time's running short, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this lesson. Hopefully that's explained a few things. The whole idea is to get from one section to the next section and know where you're at still. You've got those notes to utilize, those 6 notes, and you know, there's your G. You can land on your G, or you can slide down and hit the open G to get back to this G. Okay, so that's the lesson for this time, and I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye and pack it up for right now. I've got one more thing I may try to do, just depends on it. So I'll talk to you guys next time, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Check out my other website, secretsofTexasBluesGuitar.com. I believe you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and tell your friends. Appreciate it, guys.